morning, everyone. We're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. If you please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you again for coming. It's April 4th. This is the Broadwater County Commissioners' General Business Meeting. Before we get started, just a little bit of homework. These meetings are videoed and on YouTube, and they're also recorded, so please state your full name prior to any public comment. We follow Robert's Rules of Order and an open meeting process. The purpose of this policy is to open our meetings to all Broadwater County citizens. We have a fiscal and fiduciary responsibility to conduct county business as efficiently as possible for all our residents. Any separate conversations need to be removed from the meeting and conducted outside. Outbursts will not be tolerated. Public comment will give citizens who wish to speak an initial 3 minutes to do so, and all comments should be directed to the board chair. So with that, we will move on to public comment. Is there any public comment this morning? Public comment. All right, we'll move on to Montana Minute. For those of you who are new, this is just a chance for us to say something good about our community or our state. So Franklin, do you have a Montana Minute to share?
Well, yeah, we've had some pretty good weather for the spring work, and it's progressing pretty good. Need moisture, all right, but we got 2 irrigation projects going on south of Toston, so they hopefully get those wound up here with this good weather, because everybody will be ready for water. That's about it.
All right, I would like to congratulate Julie Deal and her Thespians on another very successful play. Also, the Cow Tipping Comedy that was here on Friday, that was a group out of Helena that did improv, and thanks to all of you who came. And then also, Townsend is known as wrestling country, so we had a good meet this weekend as well. It was a busy week, or weekend, for Townsend. Anyone else have a Montana Minute they want to share? Positive comment about our community or our state? All right, we will move on to Commissioner's Community Update. It's been 2 weeks since our last meeting. Franklin, what you been up to?
Well, attended the LEPC meeting, and then the NACOS conference in Great Falls for several days.
Anything to report on specifics? All right, I was also at the LEPC meeting. We're just updating our emergency plan right now. We also had a local advisory council for mental health. Montana Board of Crime Control had a conference meeting. We have a state infrastructure group that has formed. We had a meeting on that. Let's see, mental health was last Monday. And then we had a Montana Association of County Road Supervisors conference last Tuesday and Wednesday in Great Falls. Basically what that is for our road crews to learn the science of maintaining roads. Dana was there, and he was, I'm not sure if he was elected, but it looks like he is going to at least be running for second vice president of the association. So that's good for Broadwater County. So with that, we will move on to approval of the minutes.
I attended that mental health meeting. I forgot about that.
Anything more to say on that? All right, we have minutes from March 21, 2016. Those were sent to us on March 22nd or 23rd.
Those are what you made that addition on. I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from March 21st.
I'll second the motion. It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of March 21, 2016. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye, motion carries. Thanks, Ann. All right, do we have any COS review? Okay. So next on the agenda, this is at the request of multiple citizens and Commissioner Salifka from March 15th and 10:15 select, that we're early, aren't we? I'm gonna hold off, it's only 10:05. I'm gonna hold off in case anybody else wants to be here for that. So we'll go ahead and take care of mail for about 9 minutes. We have a Helena National Forest timber sale announcement. It doesn't look like any of these are mostly north of us, but if you know somebody in the area, certainly go ahead and share this with them. This will be downstairs. And it's for the Little Snowies, Moose Creek, Upper Sheep Creek, Three Castle Cabins, and Stonewall, Lone Point, Bison Mountain, Mike Rennig, and Telegraph. We both got copies of that. We have a DEQ letter. They will be issuing a wastewater discharge permit for Laurel Travel Center. Again, that's not here, but if you know someone that lives there and want to share that with them. And we have another one for the city of Big Timber. We also have an Upper Missouri River Reservoir Fisheries Management Plan. Annual update meeting is April 12, 2016 at 6:30. We have a newsletter from MDT. Esri News for state and local government. There's also a public meeting coming up on Tuesday, April 5th. This is tomorrow. This is sponsored by the City of Townsend and a wastewater improvements project. And this will be at City Hall. Montana Department of Revenue. This is something that was sent to the sanitarian, the county attorney, and the sheriff's department, and basically it's just a change in licensing for teasers, but it doesn't look like any other changes. But if you're interested in that, this is all downstairs for you. We also have a request to authorize a farmer's market, and this was passed by the Board of Crime Control, that will be held for the same months as last year in the same location as last year, right on Front Street. And we have a letter to update us on the continuing monitoring of a well abandonment work plan, and this is for the Old Townsend Sinclair. And this is by the WCEC Environmental Consultants from Missoula. We have an update letter of ongoing projects and a public notice by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. And this will be a this is in Phillips County. So again, you're welcome to it if you want to share that with a friend. And then we finally have our STIP report from MDT that is online if anybody's interested in that. The STIP report is the road projects that MDT will be doing. It's highlighted by county and it's in priority. They go through a whole process for that, and it's done by 5-year increments. So this is the report for the priorities in Broadwater County from MDT for 2016 through 2020. And we're still a tad bit early. So, Franklin, we have a request from the Montana Forested Counties Coalition to send a letter to Senator Steve Daines and ask him to sign on to the Crapo Tester Dear Colleague letter. This is to help Congress to pass SRS. The federal funds have been approved, but SRS was not. We all know about 2 years ago, if you saw your taxes go up. When SRS is not approved at the federal level, the money in SRS that comes to a local community for the schools is still realized. Not by the feds, but by citizens in that county in their property taxes. So SRS is important to counties not only because it helps fund search and rescue, road maintenance, and our schools, but it also lifts the tax burden from our citizens. So I have a letter here. I'd like your support in sending that. Basically what it says is, thank you for the work you've done on behalf of Broadwater County. It has been a pleasure to work with you and your excellent staff. The purpose of this letter is to request that support again. Please continue to work on our behalf to reauthorize SRS, and that's Secure Rural Schools, and sign the Crapo Tester Dear Colleague letter. SRS is about communities. SRS supports our schools, local infrastructure, and essential services like search and rescue, road maintenance, fire protection, and more. Reforming forest management practices will take time. As much as those efforts are supported by our citizens, we realize change will not happen immediately, but our needs are immediate. Thank you again for this opportunity to express our gratitude for your continued work for our state and county. I appreciate your continued support of SRS.
Yeah, sounds good. Another thing here, correct me if I'm wrong, but it says SRS supports our schools, local infrastructure, service, search and rescue and all that. My understanding SRS only is for roads and the schools. I don't remember anything being there for the other infrastructures.
It is, that language actually came from a letter from the Forested Counties Coalition, and different counties use it in different ways. So, yeah, that's part of their language, and since this is a collaborative effort, I thought it was important to add as much as possible.
Yeah, that's okay with me, I just,
Can I get a motion to sign the letter then?
I'll make a motion to sign this letter to,
All right, I'll second the motion. It's been moved and seconded to sign the letter to Senator Daines to sign on to the Dear Colleague letter. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye, motion carries.
Good.
Okay, we have approved claims in the amount of not very much this time, $1,569.95.
You sure that's?
No, I'm not. Hang on just a second. Okay, we have a discrepancy, so I'm gonna go with the higher number that's on the tape from running all the numbers. $94,879.70.
That sounds more like it. We'll pay the claims in the amount stated.
I think so, yeah. All right, I'll second it. We've moved and seconded to pay the approved claims in the amount of $93,879.70. All those, excuse me, $94,879.70. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye, motion carries. Thank you. All right, we are at 10:15. Select interim commissioner for District 2 decision.
I'll step right on this. 3 weeks ago, I was asked when I would make a commitment. And I said with the makers conference and everything, it'd probably be, that would be on the 28th, or probably the first week in April. And in fact, I did make a commitment the next week. I nominated 2 people. Now, continue my word for this first week in April. This person has a previous 3 years working on the budget, so he has the experience, and that's what we're gonna be doing pretty strongly right now is budget work. So I nominate Nick Corthall for interim commissioner for District 2.
All right, I will second the motion. Any discussion? Any discussion? All right, it's been moved and seconded to appoint Nick Corthals as the commissioner from District 2. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye, motion carries. So, excellent. Thank you. You would spread the word?
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
she might be around quick.
All right, we have a few minutes now before our 10:30. And again, because I think people might want to listen to that, I'm going to hold out till 10:30 on that subject item. So we have a little bit more on the mail front. All right, one thing I wanted to bring forward, and this was from last meeting's public comment. Brian Hone, the solid waste supervisor, has built a storage building at the solid waste site at Cedar. And basically his thinking is kind of in line with a lot of our farmers and ranchers. If you keep your equipment protected from the elements, it will last longer. So it's just responsible management on his part and protecting your investment in the equipment he uses to take care of your solid waste. So he did use 3 local contractors on that project. The MCA that he followed is 18-2-301, and that is the bidding requirements for any project. Basically, if you stay below a certain threshold, which I believe is $25,000, you do not have to pay Davis-Bacon wages. And as long as you stay below $75,000 for the entirety of the project, you do not have to actually go out to bid. So he did work with 3 local contractors and got the building up, and he's looking at about a total cost right now of $15,000. $11,000 for the building, and then electrical was another couple thousand, and concrete. So any questions on that? Mike?
Why wasn't a permit done?
The permit is actually being done right now by the, one of the contractors.
Why
So
wasn't it
that
done
was-
before the building was put up? That's the
That was an error.
code.
That was an error, so they actually did go back, and it's been done unfortunately locally, so we need to do some education of a lot of folks on that. So that's being taken care of right now by the contractor. Any other questions on that? All right. So we have the FLAP grant. That's the Federal Lands Access Program. And that is a project we're working on right now that WWC is kind of heading for us. And BOR is our partner. We have support letters from around the community. And what we're going to be doing is hopefully getting the funds from the transportation bill to pave Goose Bay Road. So here's the application, Franklin. And I just need your approval by vote to go ahead and submit that.
A little more for some of you folks what this is. There's a road that goes access to federal land. That's what this stands for. And in this case, the BOR has the campground down there, so we've been in, personally wasn't going to do anything on the road. They were spending, I guess it's up close to $8 million in that campground now, and they didn't want to do anything on the road. So anyway, WWC's went through for this grant here, and BOR, I don't know if they've got the sign, last time I talked to Sean, they still didn't have the signed letter, but they committed they would take care of the in-pay stuff, which is about $80,000. So I don't think that's on this part at all, this is just strictly, anyway, that's all I had to say on that, explain a little bit what that this is.
Franklin, this was emailed. I don't know if you saw it, but this is the support letter from BOR.
Oh, this-
cost share the 80,000. Provided that reclamation is absolved of all future road operations and maintenance for the entire length of the improved road under this grant. It's still, okay. I'll do the rest of it later, but, that sounds like everything's gonna be a go on that then.
Can I get your motion to go ahead and submit this grant?
I move to submit this grant to the Federal Land Access Program.
Second the motion, it's been moved and seconded to submit the Federal Lands Access Program grant for Goose Bay Road. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye, motion carries. All right, then we,
Estimated cost on this, I got projected right here one for sure before, but it's $1,311,451, so it's, like I say, they spent $8 million on a campground, they can sure take care of the road for the county.
there will be no monies requested from Broadwater County citizens. Broadwater County, our match will be in kind, and it will be Dana and his crew actually prepping the road for paving. BOR is going to be paying essentially the engineering costs for the program, and then the rest will be covered by the transportation bill that funds FLAP, and they won't look at anything under $1 million. They don't consider it worth their time. So we've got a good project. Everyone we've spoken to seems to think it stands a good chance, so cross our fingers. All right, so the next one we have, Franklin, is continuing business with the airport. Here is the CIP that we went over with Bill Berglund of Robert Petch and Associates, another engineering firm. On the CIP, we have a requirement to pave the airport every so years by FAA. In 2020-something, 2024, we'll be looking at that. So what we've been doing is putting aside the money because we have a 10% match. It's probably about a $4 million price tag. Our match would be about $400,000. So the airport gets money every year, and they share that around the state. As Ennis is rebuilding their airport, the money, the other small airports from FAA goes to Ennis to help with that. The next year when Fort Benton is doing theirs, the other monies for the other airports go to Fort Benton. So we're being asked to do the same thing this year. This is something we do annually. And we also put a little bit of money every year into a CIP as a savings account to get ready for this project. So what we have is a request. This was voted on unanimously by the airport board to cost share $150,000 from the Townsend Airport Fund to Madison County. Basically, it's a loan. That'll be paid back when we have our paving project. What say you on that, Franklin?
Yes, I'm in favor of that. I got a question back on this here. I don't see any place for me to sign. Your name is on here, well, 4 different places, but.
I'm the chairman. That's all
Well,
they
yeah, I
asked
know
for.
that you got some other ones down here too, and your name is on those.
I'm the chairman. If you want to add your
Well,
signature.
that's okay.
If you wanna add your
Why'd you ask
signature-
me to sign it?
I asked you for your vote, and I gave you that to look at. I needed your vote and motion in order to approve signing it.
I agree on this.
Can I also get a vote? A motion?
A motion to this airport money transferred to Madison County.
I'll second the motion. It's been moved and seconded to grant approval of loaning $150,000 to Madison County for the airport. All those in favor of signing, please, or of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye, motion carries.
Somebody.
And the city has already signed, I understand.
somebody.
I'm sorry, yes, Tim?
Madam Chair, Tim Ravendall, just a quick question on that. Is this under a federal program, this loan, to where it's a long-term commitment to this program, or is this year by year? Reason I ask is, we're sending $150,000 to Madison County. What are our guarantees that that program will be in place in 4 years or 2024 or whenever we need to have that reciprocity?
Yes, we are guaranteed it will be coming back. It is a federal program. Yes. And we've done it many times in the past.
I think last year went to Twin Bridges, didn't it, or something,
I don't remember where it went.
but it, some carried on.
All right, we're just 4 minutes early, but I'm going to go ahead and go to 10:30. Jenny Klaus, BCH CFO, State of Hospital Update.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for letting us give a quarterly update. It has been about 3 months since we've been here. And I'm actually really excited to report that the nursing home is now full. That means 32 residents live there. There's a waiting list for those still interested. We also have inpatients. We used to run about 0 to 1 patient on average a month in the hospital that are there for recovery. We now run 3 to 5 on average in the hospital. That's been for this last quarter. And then we did a quick remodel, or a small remodel, on our clinic upstairs. A high school student, Evelina Herrick, came in and painted a pediatric room where we've got a Dr. Seuss mural. We also have a Townsend history room that people can come. We work partnered with the museum, and it's really neat. So that's broken. So certainly come in, come visit, see what we offer. Also visit our providers. Our clinic for 2 years ran a solid 8 patients a day. These last 3 months, we now average 16 patients a day. We had 25 one day last week. It's pretty incredible. Of course, with all that extra volume, yay, our bottom line is up. So we have actually made more income, had income 4 months in a row. Sorry, I'm nervous for some reason. So many people. Really, it's just we've actually had four months in a row where our income exceeded our expenses. And I love to do the happy dance and come back and tell the board that what we're doing is working. We have, gosh, take a breath.
Deep breath.
Yeah, no deep breath. Let's see, so 4 months, I had a piece of paper that I was actually going to hand a couple around if anybody forgot. You guys did receive, there's a graph that shows where we've come from in the last 3.5 years. When we shut down, we made $80,000 a month. This last March, I just looked at the books, we closed at a little over $600,000 in gross revenues. That's a huge increase for this community. What it means also is that in the last 3.5 years, we've paid off $2.2 million in debt and paid out over $12 million in payroll back into our economy. So good job, way to go on keeping the hospital open. Of course, with all those high volumes, it means that we're pushing our limits. So right now, with our staff, they're doing a great job, but we are recruiting hard for more nursing staff. So if you know anybody, I'm pleading with you, please come help them join our family. Right? Yeah, they're doing a great job, but we want to help them out more. We continue to look forward. Right now, our 3 boards, there's the district board, the foundation, and our hospital board, are meeting and working on a strategic plan. As soon as there's more framework, we're going to open that up to the community as well. Some of the things that we're working on is expanding an assisted living facility on our campus. And USDA has given approval for funding for that, should we choose to go forward with it. We're also in discussions about expanding our clinic with more office spaces for pertinent services like dermatology or cardiac rehab and services that are in need here. The other thing that we're looking at is actually turning to you guys as a county, is your capital improvement plans that you've had in the past and what you've seen in your visions for expanding this entire block and area and maybe how we can work together to get some of those projects done, and continue those now that we're kind of on our feet. Another exciting thing that we are doing right now, we've just joined a pilot program where we're focusing full care coordination for our Medicare population, which will hopefully will learn and expand to all our patients, where it's coordinating care from beginning to end and helping them with all of their appointments and staying healthy. It's really focused on a total community health, and that's kind of just the way of the future is actually keeping your community healthy and getting paid that way. So we're looking forward to that. I think we have also our community health needs assessment is getting ready to roll out. We'll have 900 surveys going out to residents. This happens every 3 years, and the results that come back from it is how we make our plans for the needs for the community in the future. Out of our last one, we got the CT machine, MRI, mammography services, and also mental health is what we found the community needed, and we were able to provide those for you guys. And they're used perfectly, so it's been great. I think that's what I had for everybody today. Is there any questions? Sorry, and thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Any questions for Jenny or Kyle? Or Bill as a board member?
Yeah.
Or Brad.
Or Brad.
Who's
Or
Brad?
Marcia. Brad.
Oh, Brad, good morning. Yes, Marcia, thank you for coming. Any questions? Tim?
I just got a quick question. The hospital district board, when's the last time the commission has had an update from them?
Thank you. It's been a while. We get together every budget season, so that'll be coming up, but it's been a while.
Yeah. It was last November, I think, because I met with
Yeah.
you guys.
Yeah, so I guess it's only been 5 months. Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions?
Just a
Yes.
comment, obviously. I just need you to know that it's been an honor and a privilege to serve this community. When you think of $2 million in the hole on a $4.8 million total budget, in September 2012, this organization only collected $80,000. It needed somewhere between $400,000 to $500,000. That's a 640% increase in revenues in order to make it, plus the debt. And staff, Jenny, the board has been incredible. If you were running a ranch and you were 640% down in what you needed in revenues, it'd be pretty hard to even begin to think about making up. And it's because of the community contributions from Townsend State Bank, from Dolly McMasters, from the foundation, from individuals that has made this happen. And to actually hit a $600,000 revenue mark is unbelievable. And it's not because we raised prices.
No, we actually haven't.
Over a 3-year period, I think our prices have been increased no more than around 6% total
Yeah.
for those 3 years. And so it's an incredible story. And you all need to be incredibly proud of what you've helped happen. We're not there yet, and we do have vision. The strategic planning process is a process, and we hope to bring this out for your comment. The 3 boards, foundation, district, and hospital board, are going to meet to begin to finalize the planning process in May. And then we want to take it to town hall meetings and get input from everyone. It's a long ways yet to go, but what it does validate is that you need the service here, we have and can recruit the professionals to make it happen, and make it happen in the highest quality. Jenny mentioned a little bit about the Medicare coordination of care. Your hospital here is one of 8 in the state and one of 168 in the nation that got selected in this grant to go forward. And that's pretty exciting stuff. Medicare is moving from volume-based reimbursement, so you get paid for every x-ray you do, to value-based. We've set benchmarks now. 2017, about 80% of our revenues in healthcare across the country is going to come based on value-based benchmarks that Medicare has set for us to reach. It's not going to be how many x-rays or how many lab works. It's going to be how well we take care of those patients. And frankly, that's one of the high interests we have, not just in the coordination of care, but how public health services are delivered in the community, and how the whole coordination of care is delivered. So it's not going away. It doesn't matter what the politicians are talking about. Congress, both sides of the aisle, voted about 98% to move Medicare from volume-based to value-based reimbursement. It ain't gonna go away. So we gotta be there, and we're ahead of most of the state. So it's truly an honor and a privilege to be a part of it with you guys.
Thank you. Any further, Brad?
Yeah, I'd like to offer a word of appreciation. This board here, the majority of this board has recognized the value of this hospital. This hospital is an asset to the community. It is not a cost or an expense to the community. But when you're in the hole, you need help getting out. And I would really like to compliment Elaine. Elaine was really strong in supporting this hospital, and you, Laura. Without the county's support, we probably would not have made it. And I would also like to offer a word of appreciation to Dr. Trapp. Dr. Trapp came to us at our worst moment. And she worked with this hospital for a little over 3 years and helped us through those tough days for very little compensation. And we owe her a debt of gratitude. Just as we owe this Board of Commissioners a debt of gratitude, because we can't do it by ourselves. I mean, most of you know what it's like to be a farmer or a rancher. When you're in the hole, you're in the hole, and it's really hard to get out. But some of you recognize that this hospital was a potential for this community, it's an asset for this community, and it will be a source of revenue for this community going forward, and it will be there forever. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. Any other comments, questions? We've got 3 board members here. Yes, Paul?
I have a question for Kyle, Paul Bray. Kyle, with Obamacare, we now have people who are getting insurance policies with extremely high deductibles because that's what they can afford. When those people come to our services, are they paying those deductibles? Are they paying the co-pays? Or are we absorbing that?
Yes, that's a great question. Interestingly enough, our uncompensated care is kind of about the same now as it was before, and a lot of it is the inability to cover that upfront deductible. And the interesting part about that is where does that upfront deductible hit first? Usually it's the primary care doc, the emergency room, it's the kind of the rural setting before we send that patient off, if they need to be sent off, to a tertiary setting. So by the time that patient is a tertiary setting, a St. Pete's, a Bozeman, or Billy's Clinic, or benefits, that deductible's been hit. So the payment's probably gonna be made at the tertiary site, but hard to make that front-end deductible at the primary site, which would be us.
And so what you're saying is people are not paying this, the hospital's getting stuck.
It's
with a
really
lot.
hard to get, I mean,
Yes.
unless you got a credit card that has a high amount, it's really hard to get that cash up front. We're working hard. That's one of the things that has helped us a bunch is Jenny and her crew, along with the help of Bozeman Deaconess, Bozeman Health, really helped us fine tune the revenue cycle. Not that it's the best, but it sure isn't the worst. And at one point in time, our days and receivables were down to about 50 to 51, 52 days. We'd like to see it under 50, but it hovers between 52 and 62 days in receivables. What that means is we generally are about $16,000 revenue a day generated in the facility. That's a day of revenue. So when we have 50 days in revenue, I can't put that together in my head, but it's a lot of money. And
$80,000.
yeah,
16,000 a day? It's 800.
16,000,
Yeah.
800,000.
It's 800, right.
Yeah, so I dropped to zero.
Kelly?
I guess the question is, if Obamacare was supposed to lower the uncompensated costs, and it was supposed to also lower the cost of premiums for folks that have insurance policies across Montana, why hasn't the uncompensated care costs gone down? And why have the insurance costs for health insurance policies gone up so dramatically?
Two-part question, and I'm not an economist, but we haven't been able necessarily to see lowering of uncompensated care that we give here in the county that varies between about 425,000 to 530,000
A year.
and a year. And we had a little tick down last year for the first time that Medicaid went through to the sign-up process for those who would be eligible for Medicaid services. So it went down a little bit, but we still have those high deductibles for almost all insurances. I think we all experienced a high deductible move from roughly anywhere from 500 to 2,000. Now it's 1,500 to 6,000 or 10,000. So it's harder to collect that uncompensated care up front. We're only a couple years or 18 months to 2 years into this, so I think it's an experiment. Everybody, I think, understands and appreciates that. The second part of the question was what, Katie?
Why have the insurance rates gone up so much? Because
Well-
that, of course, was supposed to drive those down. But for example, in the state of Montana, our insurance rate costs have gone up dramatically for public employees in the state of Montana. I mean, it's
Right.
gone up essentially by 40%.
Representative Flynn, you have access to legislative analysis and I don't, but the short answer to that would be anytime you take on entire populations with all of the potential healthcare risk in those population bases, it would be my thought that cost is going to go up. And I think that's what's happened. I think the cost to insurance companies, the cost to cover every disease from what they used to do is I can't think of the word right now, but not let people in because of their health deal, that cost can go up. And even if you spread it across the whole population, I think that cost can go up. That's fair to say. Pre-existing condition, thank you. Yeah. So, you know, it's an experiment. We still have uncompensated care. Now at the hospital, we have certified 2 people who can walk someone through and get them on the insurance and help them get insurance coverage. So I think that's helpful. So if you know anybody that isn't insured, that could be insured, we need to get them signed up. That's the law of the land at this point. And I think board member Upthegrove is going to point to the graft again. If you have one out there, I'm sorry we didn't bring one for everybody. Go ahead.
Yes, Bill.
Bill Upthegrove, a board member. I can't completely answer that question either, but I would speak to Broadwater County. If you look at the graph, we've worked really hard on keeping our expenses level in Broadwater County. It is a challenge. Our volumes have gone up. If you heard Jenny plead with you today for a nurse, there's such a nurse shortage right now in this state that what we have to pay to get a nurse is going up dramatically. We can't help that. Can you help us with the nursing shortage program, train more nurses? This is going on across the whole country. We would love to tell you that we could control expenses. We pay a fair wage at the hospital to attract good people, but there's some things way outside of our control. But if you look at our red line, we have pretty much tried to keep it low so we could catch the blue line up with it as we went on. But the questions you're answering are pretty tough. And I think Kyle did what we could do from our side.
We did exactly that. We traded one for the other. So especially our population, we have a high Medicaid population. So we saw all these people that used to be uninsured completely are now insured with Medicaid. So where that population wasn't paying their bill a few years ago, well, now it's the ones with the high deductible that are paying the bill, which is why our uncompensated care has stayed level for us the last few years. We just traded one.
So far.
So far.
We're really early in this experiment, I think.
Any other questions or comments on this? Okay. Thank you very much, you guys, for coming.
Thank you guys a bunch.
Absolutely.
We're cautiously optimistic. This is pretty neat news.
We're cautiously happy.
All right, we're at 10:45. Nicole Brown, Community Development Director. Simonson Minor Subdivision Request Preliminary Plat Approval Decision.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you.
And I'm not going to throw the big plat map out. I think each of you have it in your binders.
Yeah.
Anyone from the public wants to look at it, we can certainly put it up somewhere, but. All right, so this is the findings of fact in order for the Simonson Minor subdivision.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
does your microphone system work? Because we can never hear her.
Sorry, I'll talk louder.
And if you'd like to move to the front row, that'll help too. But yeah, it is on.
All right, so this is the findings of fact in order for the Simonson Minor subdivision to the Broadwater County Commissioners from the Broadwater County Planning Board. The date of application for this submittal was February 2nd, 2016. They received sufficiency February 26th, and the review period ends April 15th, which is why you'll need to make a decision today in order to comply with MCA. The Planning Board public meetings were March 9th and March 23rd. Commissioners meeting is today, April 4th. The applicant is Tony Simonson out of Sheridan, Montana. Legal description, this is in the northeast quarter of Section 5, Township 6, North, Range 2 East of Broadwater County. The proposed subdivision is located directly south of the City of Townsend city limits. The applicant proposes to develop 3 lots from an existing 6.53 acre parcel. 2 lots will be utilized for single-family residences. 1 lot will be utilized for commercial purposes. Access to the proposed subdivision will be off of the existing subdivision road, Carroll Drive. The required preliminary review fee of $2,800 has been paid. The proposed subdivision is a first minor subdivision from a tract of record, therefore a public hearing is not required. These 3 lots are being created from an existing agricultural tract. The applicant is proposing 2 driveway approaches onto the subdivision road, Carroll Drive, which is not a county road, so a driveway approach application and permit is not required. Driveways have a minimum spacing of 40 feet and can only serve 2 lots. Review is performed pursuant to Montana Subdivision and Platting Act, Section 76.3.101 through 76.3.614, Montana Codes Annotated, and the Broadwater County Subdivision Regulations. The proposed preliminary plat, the Simonson Minor Subdivision, as submitted by the applicant, together with the required supplementary plans and information, appear to satisfy the requirements of these regulations and with the Broadwater County Growth Policy Plan dated July 2003. A preliminary plat, vicinity map, topo map, firm floodplain map, lot layout, and soils map of the proposed subdivision have been provided. No rock outcroppings or the presence of bedrock have been identified on the property. The distance to bedrock is greater than 8 feet. The proposed subdivision is not in an area subject to flood hazard. Water supply. 2 proposed wells will serve 2 single-family lots. 1 proposed well will serve a 16-resident and 4 staff assisted living facility. According to the DEQ application and supporting documents, water use for each single-family residence is anticipated at 200 gallons per day. Water use for 16 residents is anticipated at 1,360 gallons per day, and staff use is anticipated at 40 gallons per day. Well log data for a nearby well is included in the preliminary plat application. This well has a depth of 129 feet with a yield of 200 gallons per minute. These tracts will be served by individual wastewater treatment systems, which require review and approval by the Department of Environmental Quality. There are no surface waters or wells that lie within 100 feet of this subdivision's wastewater treatment systems. Lot owners will be responsible for disposal of their own solid waste. The subdivision residents will have the option of hiring an independent contractor to pick up their solid waste or transport it themselves to the Townsend Canister site, which is approximately half a mile north of the proposed subdivision. The land is currently vacant and not utilized for any grazing, farming, or residential purposes. Lands to the north are currently vacant, but are within the city limits of the city of Townsend. Lands to the east are agricultural, and lands to the south and west are residential. This 3-lot subdivision should have a minimal effect on agricultural productivity since the subject property is currently not being utilized for any agricultural purposes. According to the preliminary plat application, no acreage will be removed from the production of crops or livestock grazing. The property is not considered prime farmland, even if it was irrigated, nor is it part of any economically viable farm unit. This subdivision is considered to be compatible with surrounding uses since the surrounding area is agricultural, subdivision, residential, and grazing. No conflicts between the proposed subdivision and adjacent farm operations have been identified. It should not interfere with the movement of farm machinery, operation of any irrigation systems, or diminish the availability or quality of water in the surrounding area. An environmental assessment was not required for this subdivision. No hazards such as falls, slides, or slumps are indicated on the plat. There is no known seismic activity. No geological conditions which might affect the development, such as unsuitable soils, were identified within the proposed subdivision. There are no areas of marsh, grassland, shrub, or forest located on the property. According to the weed management plan completed by the applicant, there is no indication of noxious weeds present on the property. The applicant did note on the plat that any disturbed areas will be reseeded and any noxious weeds identified will be sprayed. To date, a signed and approved weed plan has not been received. There is no mention in the preliminary plat application of wildlife using the property. However, there is a possibility that deer, pheasant, gopher, and other small animals may be present. Because of the size of the parcel and the close proximity to a major highway, any effects on wildlife should be minimal. According to Damon Murdo with the Montana Historical Society, there have been no previously recorded sites within the designated search locale. Mr. Murdo added, even though there are no recorded sites in the area, this does not mean they do not exist. Any structure over 50 years of age is considered historic and is potentially eligible for listing on the National Register of Historic Places. Therefore, if any historical sites are identified during construction, MHS will be notified. There are existing historic ditches on the property that may be affected. Even though their status is unknown, easements for the ditches are shown on the preliminary plat. No new roads are proposed for this development. All lots in this subdivision will have access off of the existing subdivision road, Carroll Drive. A portion of the access easement from Highway 287 is owned by the adjacent landowner to the south for 165.07 feet. Since this 165.07-foot easement is part of a previously platted subdivision, it is intended for public use. This is shown as a 60-foot wide access easement for the entire length of the road, Carroll Drive, until it terminates at the intersection of Loki Lane, also a subdivision road. This 60-foot Carroll Drive access easement is shown on document number 119550 of Book 1, page 272, as access to a 9.05 acre agricultural parcel. The same access is shown again as a 60-foot access easement on document number 120988, Book 1, page 287, to a 5.0362 acre one-lot minor subdivision directly west of this proposed subdivision. The following is taken from the Conrad Minor Subdivision Findings of Fact and Order pertaining to Carroll Drive. A complaint for declaratory judgment and to quiet title to easement was received by the Planning Office from Thomas A. Budowitz, attorney at law, in July 2011. Mr. and Mrs. Jackson, developers of the preliminarily approved Jackson Minor Subdivision, are named as defendants in this complaint. According to the complaint, the plaintiffs are requesting an order barring all of the defendants from performing any act that would prevent or limit the plaintiff's use of the easement. Per a phone conversation between Mr. Budowitz and Nicole Brown, county planner, the submittal and review of the Jackson's property for subdivision is allowable even with the complaint still active. Mr. Budowitz added that as long as Carroll Drive were deemed a public easement through this subdivision process, his clients would be satisfied. Therefore, the final plat shall designate Carroll Drive as a public access easement from the northwest corner of this development to US Highway 287. Since the applicant is proposing only a 3-lot minor subdivision, they should not be required to build the existing Carroll Drive to county road subdivision road standards. The county shall request, however, they contribute 1/50th per lot of the cost to upgrade the road. The applicant will utilize the bid estimate obtained by the developers of the Jackson Minor Subdivision for the cost to upgrade the existing Carroll Drive to county subdivision road standards. Per the subdivision regulations, this road should be upgraded to a number 1 local road. The maximum number of vehicle trips per day for a number 1 local road is 400, which is the equivalent of 50 lots. Therefore, the proposed Simonson Minor Subdivision developer shall be required to contribute 3/50ths of the cost to upgrade Carroll Drive to Broadwater County subdivision road standards. The responsibility of maintenance of the road will be all of the landowners who utilize this road, though they are not required to form a homeowners association or road maintenance and/or improvement district. A 15-foot utility and underground irrigation easement is shown around the perimeter of each of the 3 proposed lots. Lot 3B has a 45-foot wide utility underground irrigation and access easement along the southern boundary. Lot 3A also has a 45-foot wide utility underground irrigation and access easement along the western boundary. The Broadwater County Rural Fire District will serve the proposed subdivision. According to a letter written by the applicant to the BCRFD, the applicant intends to build a 30,000-gallon pond with a dry hydrant for fire suppression purposes. The nearest fire station is the Townsend Fire Station, which is located approximately 0.4 miles north of the proposed development. The Broadwater County Sheriff, located in Townsend, will provide law enforcement. The Broadwater Ambulance Service, also located in Townsend, will provide both ambulatory and emergency services. Since only 2 of the lots will be utilized as single-family residence lots, with the potential for school-aged children, this proposed development will generate approximately 3 school-aged children whom will attend school in Townsend. The Townsend school system should be able to accommodate this small number of children. This subdivision should be compatible with surrounding land uses since there will only be 3 dwellings placed upon the parcel. According to the applicant, the only known potential hazard is the close proximity to US Highway 287. In order to mitigate potential hazards, fences may be constructed to keep the animals and/or small children confined to the property. Since this proposed subdivision is the first minor subdivision from a tract of record, no parks or recreation facilities are required. It is hereby ordered that the preliminary plat for the Simonson Minor Subdivision is approved, subject to the conditions listed below. Final plat approval shall be contingent upon completion and compliance with these conditions. Number 1, the applicant shall contribute 3/50ths of the cost to upgrade the existing road, Carroll Drive, to Broadwater County subdivision road standards for a number 1 local road. It shall be required that they obtain a current estimate. Number 2, a signed and approved Montana Department of Transportation right-of-way agreement equal or greater than the county subdivision road requirements must be received. Number 3, a weed management plan for the existing development shall be submitted to the county weed district for review and approval. Number 4, the applicants will be required to submit the final plat drawings in electronic format to Broadwater County in ArcGIS, AutoCAD, or MicroStation format. Additional materials may be requested by the county in electronic format to facilitate review of application materials. Number 5, the applicant and the Fire Protection Authority having jurisdiction shall use their best efforts to draft a fire protection plan specifically for this subdivision in accordance with Broadwater County subdivision regulations. The plan shall be equally acceptable to the FPHJ, the applicant, and the county governing authority. The plan shall adequately address the fire risk analysis, all findings of fact, and appropriate mitigation measures. In the event the parties are unable to come to agreement by the final plat submittal, the applicant shall become eligible to provide the per lot cash in lieu fee for water supply as may be defined in the Broadwater County subdivision regulations in effect at the time of submittal. 6, the final plat shall be prepared in accordance with the applicable state survey requirements, Montana Subdivision and Plating Act survey requirements, and the county subdivision regulations. 7, the ditch easement shall be shown on the final plat. 8, the book and page reference to the restrictive covenant filed with the county clerk and recorder shall be indicated on the face of the final plat. In addition, restrictive covenants, revocable or alterable only with the consent of the Board of County Commissioners, shall be placed upon the property and shall provide for the following. A, notification of the potential health risk from radon concentrations and that such risk can be evaluated through soil tests and mitigated through radon abatement techniques incorporated into structures. B, notification that all dwelling units within the subdivision should be constructed to specifications which meet or exceed equivalent provisions in the applicable state building code for the seismic zone, which is Zone 3. C, any additional replacement or relocated utility lines shall be installed underground in accordance with county subdivision regulations unless otherwise determined by the utility provided. D, any exterior lighting shall be directed downward to minimize visibility beyond the property line. E, a waiver of the right to protest to join a special district for the purpose of providing community water and or wastewater treatment system improvements and or maintenance. F, a restrictive covenant binding the landowner, any heirs, successors, and assigns, and all future owners of the property within the subdivision, agreeing therein to hold Broadwater County harmless and indemnify Broadwater County from all claims, demands, obligations, suits, causes of action, damages, and liability, including the county's costs and attorney's fees arising in any manner whatsoever out of or relating to the existence, use, operation, repair, and or maintenance of the following. Subitem 1, earthquake fault zone and any seismic activity, and subitem 2, water availability. All cats and dogs must be restrained, penned, or otherwise under the control of their owner at all times. H, notification of the presence of egg operations in the vicinity. I, each lot shall be maintained in a clean, attractive, and weed-free manner. Noxious weeds must be pulled, sprayed, or cut prior to seed maturity. J, a waiver of right to protest joining a road improvement or maintenance district for the purpose of road maintenance, mosquito control, or equitably funding parks and maintenance of parks. K, address numbers shall be clearly marked at the driveway entrance to each lot and be easily identified from the road. L, a notification that lots in this subdivision may be subject to impact fees if in place prior to lot sales. 9, prior to filing the final plat, the following improvements shall be installed or otherwise guaranteed. A, utilities abutting and available to each lot. And B, any necessary improvements required by the stormwater drainage plan or weed management plan. 10, prior to filing the final plat, the applicant shall A, provide proof that all taxes and special assessments assessed and levied on the property are paid for the current tax year, including any past delinquencies. And B, provide documentation and abstract of title or platting certificate showing that the applicant is the lawful owner of the property with the apparent authority to subdivide the same, showing the names of lien holders or claimants of record, and the written consent to the subdivision by the owners of the land, if other than the applicant, and any lien holders and claimants of record against the land. The applicant is financially responsible for actual outside engineering, consulting, professional and or contracted service fees, etc., at the sole discretion of the county for additional review and or final plat approval of the proposed subdivision. Preliminary plat approval of the Simonson Minor subdivision shall be enforced for 3 calendar years. At the end of this period, the governing body may, at the request of the subdivider, extend its approval for a mutually agreed upon period of time. Any mutually agreed upon extension must be in writing and dated and signed by the members of the governing body and the subdivider or subdivider's agent. The governing body may issue more than one extension. A party as defined by 763625 MCA who is aggrieved by a decision of the governing body may, within 30 days after this decision, appeal to the Broadwater County District Court.
Thank you. Franklin, do you have any initial questions?
No, I went through everything on there, so it looks like everything's been thought of, pretty well taken care of, I'd say.
Can we look at the big plan?
You absolutely can. Thank you. I have this one. I don't know if I have the one in the folder here.
This is fine.
Okay.
I have some questions. So, access to these 2 lots, I think you said was by Loki Lane. How's that going to be here?
Right here is the access. Loki Lane is here, so Carroll Drive comes in here. Highway 287 is here.
Yeah.
Carroll Drive comes off. Loki Lane branches off of Carroll. So these 2 lots will have this access right here. They'll share this. And a driveway can be used for 2 lots, no more than 2. So this guy can't come off of here. He'll have to come up with another one.
Oh,
So,
okay.
you know, somewhere most likely in this area, I would say, before this turn off, but
So this is just a driveway to
Mhm.
these 2 lots,
absolutely.
and then this is probably the lot for the assisted living,
Correct.
and that'll come off onto Carroll Drive.
On the Carroll Drive, yep. None of them will be using Wilkie Lane.
Okay, all right. And how far is Carroll Drive brought to standard?
It's not. It's not to any subdivision road standard, and we couldn't make either the Jacksons, when the Jacksons did their subdivision, we couldn't make them do the whole thing. They did the 1/50th. Conrad's, when Conrad Minor did this, they paid 3/50th because they had 3 lots that were using it.
Okay.
So, at no point is Carroll Drive brought to a county subdivision road standard, but we can't force them to bring it to a subdivision road standard.
Okay.
Basically because it's a court case that happened in Lewis and Clark County where a developer was forced to pay for the entire subdivision road. It was actually a county road at that time, but we have to make it fair and equitable.
Okay.
So, I consulted with Susan Simley, I don't know if you recall, when we did Jackson Minor. Maple Land Use Attorney Susan Simley suggested that we use this 1/50th, 50 because of the 400 vehicle trips per day. 8 vehicle trips per day per lot, divided into 400 is 50.
And that makes sense when we're talking residential,
Mhm.
because buyer beware, you buy your home, you know that it's, you know, not brought to county standards when you buy your lot. So this being a commercial lot, it sounds like it's being treated as a residential lot. Is there any difference since it is a business?
Generally, according to our growth policy plan, a business generates 20 vehicle trips per day, whereas a residence generates 8. So we could change that to the 50th, so what would that be? I'm not very good at math off the top of my head here.
No, but it just seems to me that since it is commercial, it should be abiding by the 20s rather than the
Right.
50, don't you think?
Yep, and we certainly could do that. I think that would make that 2.5 shares. And then
Okay.
1 and 1, so I think that would be
Yeah.
4.5 50ths.
Yeah.
I would double check it on a calculator before I
Yeah.
plan it before I have you sign anything.
Good idea, but I think that's, it's clearly going to be a business, so I think it should be.
Okay,
um,
so we can up that proportionate share for that lot.
Okay, all right. I had some other questions too. We got a letter for variance on the agricultural lot. I gave that to you, I assume that went to the planning board and you guys dealt with it?
Yes, and it was actually not a request for variance. Anytime a developer, and that will have to be your first motion today, so thank you for bringing that up, to lift that agricultural exemption, that's part of the subdivision application. One of the requirements, if there's an agricultural exemption in place, you will have to approve the lifting of that exemption prior to granting preliminary approval to the subdivision.
In the past, hasn't that gone to DEQ for
No.
them to do?
No.
Did we lift it for Jackson's?
Yes, you lifted it
Okay.
for Jackson's and for Conrad's.
Okay.
Both. And it's just part of the process. And actually, I take that back, it's not at preliminary, it's at final. It's at final that you would lift that agricultural exemption
Okay.
before they can actually record it as a plat. So no action needs to be taken today on that agricultural exemption.
Okay, all right.
And really, it's, the only way to lift an agricultural exemption is through the subdivision process.
That's right.
So, you know, in that ag exemption, even if, so say like Jackson's, to bring that one up, they didn't divide the property necessarily, they just wanted to continue building their home, because they didn't discover until they were halfway through construction that there was an agricultural exemption in place. So they had to go through the subdivision process, even though they weren't dividing. The only mechanism of lifting that agricultural exemption in Broadwater County is by going through the subdivision process. So,
Okay.
it just kind of, it rolls along with the subdivision, I guess, is what I'm saying. They, you know, by going through the subdivision, they're really doing their due diligence to lift the ag exemption, but this commission still needs to make the motion at final, that you're granting them the ability to lift that exemption before you grant final plat approval, which you're not doing today, just preliminary.
Okay. And this will not use Mosted Lane, just Carroll
No,
Drive?
absolutely not, just Carroll Drive.
Okay.
And really, I thought it was pertinent to include that same language that was in the Conrad Minor subdivision, just because we all know that there was an issue going on down here, you know, and when attorneys are involved, I think it's good just to track that. So that statement that I have in here under roads, Thomas Budowitz's explanation and my kind of wordy explanation of our phone call, I just wanted it to continue tracking with any developments that ever occur on Carroll Drive. Because that complaint is only located in the Conrad Minor subdivision, I'm sorry, Jackson Minor subdivision. And so just to perpetuate that. So really, it doesn't mean anything for this development, but it's just information sharing.
Okay. And my final question is the donut hole with Townsend. Have you taken this to their planning board just, or to the city council?
I took it to the city council. Mhm.
Okay,
Yep.
perfect.
And if they have questions, because there is a law, if it lies within 1 mile of a municipal or municipality, the city has to comment on it, or we have to allow them the ability to comment on it. So I did take the plat, the preliminary plat, and the application is all that I have to take to them. They don't actually need the whole book. I took that to them. If they have comments, they'll either contact myself or you, but I'd imagine they would send me comments. And I will double check with them before we go for final, just to make sure that they don't have any concerns or questions that need to be brought up.
All right. One thing with this, and I'm sure Franklin got the same thing, but whenever we go to Mako or Mackers, one of the things that we hear constantly is, how's your hospital doing? The whole state knows about our hospital story. And I think what that's leading us as a community into is being known as kind of a healthcare community. And I believe that this assisted living is going to help our physical therapists at the hospital as well as our private PT. It's going to help our chiropractors on Main Street and Front Street. So I don't think it hurts us one bit to become known as a healthcare community, with the center being our community hospital that the entire community got behind. So, all right, those are all my questions. Do you have any at all, Franklin? And any questions from the public? Okay, so with that, the question on the commercial,
Yep,
we will have a
absolutely.
meeting next week.
Oh,
I don't
you
know
do?
if you were
Okay.
here, but we have a third
I
commissioner.
did hear, congratulations.
Thank
Yes,
you.
I was in the hallway there, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll have a meeting next week,
Okay,
and if we can table this until then,
absolutely.
and then do the calculator
Yep.
on this, and I would feel better, if
Yeah,
that's okay.
absolutely, yeah, that's just fine. I'll check my math and bring it back to you on Monday. Do you
Okay.
have a time? Do you have, or should I just wait?
Tentatively, how about the same time?
Okay, 10:45, sorry.
Yeah, let me just double check real quick. Same time?
Perfect,
Okay,
I need to get on for another issue, so I'll send you an email.
okay.
Should I send it to you or Michelle?
How about Michelle?
Okay, perfect.
Very good.
And you can just keep your findings of fact report. The only thing that will change is that one condition, so I'll bring you that one page, but.
Okay. Very good.
Just want to comment.
Yes, Kyle?
I'm speaking on my own behalf. I just want you to know that strategically, the board is looking at an assisted living on the campus as well. And we think the volume's there. We've been advised by others that the volume's there, so we're a little out, maybe 4 to 6 months, but we're excited about the opportunity to have it on our campus as well.
Yeah, and again, goes to Townsend's identity, switching a little bit, or diversifying versus switching. And any further comments on this? All right, thank you, Nicole.
Thank you.
I'll say, well, you're long-winded, you can read these things off.
Had a lot of practice.
Without having to stop and drink water or anything.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda is business we already took care of, Airport Board, and our agendas do say these issues and times are subject to change. Airport Board entitlements transfer decision. If there's anybody from the, thanks you guys, anybody from the Airport Board, thank you. We already did that, so that's been done affirmatively. And at 11:30, are the adjusting journal entries. We'll go ahead and move that up as subjects and times are scheduled to change, and I left them downstairs. So, did you get a chance to go through them? So if I run down and get those, we can go ahead and approve those. I'll be right back. We'll go ahead and just recess for 5 minutes.